Good evening and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this evening. I've just watched again the interview with the potential Celtic manager in McKenna, and I've got to say, if there's anyone that I'm going to throw my hat behind, it's McKenna. I think I've made my mind up with that one. If he's the guy that Celtic want, put all the chips in. The guy was well spoken. He was talking about long term. He was talking about medium term. He was talking about objectives. It's everything that you want a Celtic manager to ultimately talk about. And the fact that he went through that interview today and he never said no. But the fact that he was consistently asked about the Celtic job, and he said, look, the only connection I've got to Martin O'Neill is that I coached his nephew. There's the link, and that's all you need. You just need that little link, that one thing. Asked about how much money it would cost to take him away. If it's 5 million compensation, and I do not believe for 1 minute that this guy is on 5 million a year at Ipswich. There is no chance that Ipswich Town are paying a manager 5 million a year. It's crazy, chat. If that was the case, Brendan Rodgers would never have came to Celtic. He would have went to a team in the Championship, and there's no way that Championship teams are paying 5 million a year. That's Premier League type wages. Not a chance. I think that he is the man that Celtic want, and if it can be done, get it done quick, Celtic. Get it done quick, because this is a guy that is very calm and calculated, and he's not like Brendan Rodgers. We went out for a meal there, and I was sitting with the missus, and we were talking about Brendan Rodgers and the fact that Brendan Rodgers has just got engaged in New York 68 days after his divorce or something, and we were talking about the way that Brendan Rodgers has been over the last couple of months, and this guy he's total different. I mean, that Brendan Rodgers, you had to listen to everything that Brendan Rodgers said, because it then become apparent what he was talking about 2 or 3 weeks later when you started putting all the pieces of the jigsaw together. This guy comes across, Kieran McKenna, as someone that wants to build. He sat and spoke about the Ipswich job, and he says, look, I treat every day like I'm going to be here for the short, medium and long term. Everything I do for the club is for the long term. Brendan Rodgers never once looked at Celtic for the long term. It was always short term. Martin O'Neill's come in this week, and he's brought in youth players and given them the chance. And I've got to say, Osmond, people saying, why is Shin Yamada not getting a chance? Well, what's Shin Yamada not doing in training that Callum Osmond's doing in training? Because that's why Callum Osmond got the shout. Shin Yamada didn't get the shout because he's not doing in training what Callum Osmond's doing in training. It's as simple as that. Football's an easy thing. But anyway, we'll get back to this in a minute, because there is one of the Celtic players, Austin Trusty. Big Austin Trusty. He has been talking on social media. Where's the picture of Big Trusty? That's the potential Celtic manager. That's Martin O'Neill. I've lost it, haven't I, sir? Is it this one? Yeah, there he is. Big Austin Trusty, who's been out injured for a while. He took to social media today, and he's been talking. He posts. He doesn't post a lot, but he posts this: 3 points and a clean sheet and 90 minutes under my belt. The perfect evening at Celtic Park. Thank you to the supporters for backing us all the way. We go again Sunday. You could read a lot into that. You could read a lot into the fact that he's thankful. He knows it's been a difficult time for everyone involved at the club. And it was a perfect evening. A lot of the players might have went into the game yesterday evening thinking, do you know, is there going to be a backlash? After having had the conversation with Martin O'Neill, the players were obviously brimming with confidence, and that obviously shows on the pitch. And for Trusty to come out onto Twitter and say, the perfect evening at Celtic Park, thank you to the supporters for backing us all the way. It shows that the supporters, that the team, for definite, have been feeling the animosity, the anxiety, the stress from the terraces more than we as fans thought they were. And I think it's fantastic that he's come out and said that. Now let's get back to this guy. Is he, I mean, I think we should maybe do a poll on it, shouldn't we? Should we do a poll? Yeah, we should do a poll on this one. Let me just see how I'm going to word this one. Let's do a poll of an evening. Start a poll. This will be interesting to see how people are feeling about McKenna. Would you back McKenna as Celtic manager? Do you think he's real manager potential? Tell me in this vote. There we go, that's tonight's vote. Would you back McKenna as Celtic manager? Now, I back anyone that's Celtic manager, as you know. I back everyone that's Celtic manager. But I think there's something about this guy. You don't often get that feeling. Do you know, there's always, when everyone, all the other names that's been mentioned, it's, and then to hear him talk and just that interview today, he's just made to be a Celtic manager. And if he comes in with that mindset, if he comes in with the mindset that, you know, I'm not here a short term, he comes across, he's had instances over the last couple of years where other teams have been sniffing around him, and he's decided to stay at Ipswich Town. He comes across as a guy that is very, very, when he gets to a club that he really believes in and he really backs them, and he's a Celtic supporter, he grew up a Celtic supporter, which kind of adds. Reading into the meeting that we're probably glad that Brendan Rodgers left, just wonder as happy as I am. I think we're always happy as you, Paul, being perfectly honest. The writing was on the wall. I hope we keep Fozzie, says Chill Pill. Could out of contract in January, maybe O'Neill until then. Whoever comes in, I think for me, this guy, if he is to ever one day be offered the Celtic manager's job, I think that we're in good hands. And it's not often I say that. There's always a bit of interest, you know, there's always that little bit, will he be good? But you just get a feeling sometimes. And sometimes you've got to go with a feeling. And this guy, I think, would be a fantastic... He's the type of guy that would come into Celtic and he wouldn't jump at the first Premiership job that come up. I don't think he would do that. I think that if he got the Celtic job, he would come in. And I think he's the type of manager that would come in and say, right, we've got an immediate plan that we need to look at, a short-term plan of what's needed at the club. We've got a medium-term objective of 1 or 2 years, and then we've got a longer-term objective, 3 to 5 years. That's the kind of guy that we need in at Celtic. That's the kind of guy that is prepared to be honest and go, look, it's a longer-term thing. We know that where we are at the moment, but this is where we want to maybe be in 5 years' time. And will Celtic fans ultimately give him that backing and give him that time? That's the big question. Intuition. Yeah, it is intuition, isn't it? Sometimes you just got a gut feeling. And I've had that gut feeling tonight listening to this guy. When you look at the other managers and you look at Bodo Glimt manager, you look at the Bruges manager, you look at all these other guys that have been mentioned, are they a right fit? Are they a right fit for Celtic and where we want to go as a club? And ultimately, the journey, you know, remember, we're going for 5 in a row this year. And the journey that we want to go on as a club is all about domination. And if you've got a guy that can come in and stay at Celtic for a 5-year term. That would be fantastic. Ange needs a break. We don't need Ange. McKenna, Hiller or Lampard. For me, I'm throwing my weight behind McKenna. I think that this guy is the best option that we could potentially. Solskjaer, not a chance. Nah. When you listen to Solskjaer talking, and you've got to listen, when a guy talks off the cuff, when a guy is we did the trusty bit at the beginning, we'll do it again, just for you, Caden. When you listen to a manager that's asked questions off the cuff, and he answers them the way that he did today, that's a good manager. That's a good fit for Celtic. Do you know, he didn't fluff anything. He wasn't nervous. He took it all in his stride. And I think that if we can get this guy, if we can get this deal over the line, and the fact that he was asked about the whole Martin O'Neill connection, and he said, look, the only connection between me and Martin O'Neill is that I trained his nephew. There's no smoke without fire. When you look at the candidates, McKenna, Goodson, Rose, Hayden, they're all lead candidates. Hopefully Martin O'Neill gives us stability. So there's no need to rush this. There isn't any need to rush it. And you want to get the right guy. And you want to get a guy that ultimately isn't going to use Celtic as a platform. My only thinking with Goodson, with Rose, with Hayden, is that they're going to use Celtic as a platform. The same as what Ange did. Win the league a couple of years, get to the end of the third, and then go, I'm away down south. The same as what the previous manager did, even though he was chased out the door at that time. I want someone that's maybe been down south, and this is why he's a good fit. Because he's managed in the Premier League. Okay, they got put back down. His dad used to come on our supporters bus. And there you go. There's lots of things that you look for as a manager. And stability is one of them. And I think this guy could bring in a period of stability. John Paul Murray says, where was that one? Sorry, totally agree. Not with this board. They ruin people's reputations, ambition, and be deflated by grim reapers. I want some positivity. What about Van Nistelrooy? He's doing great in Holland. Nah, not a chance. Baz is probably the only person we can get, because let's face it, who wants to come and play in Scotland? Says Jim McClatchy. I think there's a lot of managers that would love to come to Celtic, and especially the ones that have all been mentioned. I think that excuse me, I think that quite a few of the managers that have been mentioned that haven't ruled themselves out would love to come to Celtic, because they would use Celtic as a platform to the English Premier League. This guy won't. I think that this guy would go, he's already been in and around jobs where he could potentially move in the last year or so. And he hasn't. And he hasn't wanted to. Talking about, I see myself being here long term. Not one. Ange Postecoglou never ever said that. Brendan Rodgers, fucking take what he said with a pinch of salt by the sounds of it. I want for the best for Celtic. He never once said, I see myself being here in the long term. He spoke about contract possibilities, negotiations and stuff. I want a manager that comes in like he did today in his press conference and say, I see myself here long term. This is a long term project. That was how he was talking today. He sees himself and he was realistic. He was realistic. He said, look, I see myself here as long term. situations may arise, fans may think otherwise. There's been one of the interesting things he did say, there's been one or two incidences over the last year or so where, some fans wanted him out. Happens in every manager's career. But he sees everything that he does is for the better of the club, for the long term. That's exactly what I want. Exactly. Who does Paul want since he was a Brendan out man? Yeah, where is Paul Baird? Who does Paul Baird want? Let's get Paul talking tonight. Never Lampard. McKenna would do the same for big Premier League side come calling. Would he? I don't think he would. There's just something about him. I don't think he would. And I think that is why there was a certain person that was invited up to Celtic. Now, the talk is it's been denied that a certain woman that was sitting in the Celtic board area last night at Celtic Park, it's been rubbished, the rumours that she is joining the board. But she may have been invited up to Celtic Park by Dermot Desmond to help the current board talk about potential candidates, i.e. McKenna, the Irish connection. She's Irish, he's Irish. There's a wee Irish connection going on here. We've done not too bad with Irish managers. Martin O'Neill, Neil Lennon, even Brendan Rodgers, let's face it. Let's face reality. He was a successful manager. If this guy can come in and have half the success that Brendan Rodgers has in 2 or 3 years, he'll be in a good shout. Hopefully they keep O'Neill involved in some capacity. Director of football. McKenna might be a good call to work under a foot. Yeah, exactly. I think that would be a good shout. And there's that connection again with Martin O'Neill. You just... sometimes the stars align. Well, we're talking about it this afternoon. That there's a fairy tale aspect. I'm sure it was Lorna that said it. There's a fairy tale aspect to Celtic. And there is. And, there's things happen and stars align and things, and sometimes you just think Martin O'Neill talking about young manager coming in, Martin O'Neill admitting that he doesn't know the game that well, but he knows a lot about football. There's a lot of the modern stuff that he needs to know. But if there's going to be changes at boardroom level, if there's going to be changes at the higher echelons of Celtic Football Club, and Martin O'Neill, the legend that he is going to be at Celtic for any length of time, whom better to bring in but another Irishman underneath him that Martin O'Neill knows a little bit about. The club obviously know a little bit about, but someone that they know that the fans will know, like and trust. And that's what we need for the next manager. We don't need a foreign manager to come in and be all fucking bells and whistles and fucking, saying that I'm going to do great things for Celtic, kiss the badge and then fuck off in 2 years. That's not what we need. We've had that. We've had it under Ange. We've had it to a certain extent under Brendan. I mean, it's now obvious now when you see what's been going on in Brendan's personal life that he's not been a right frame of mind for months. But anyway, he's in the past. I hope that this guy gets offered the job. If he doesn't, we'll need to back the club and whoever they say. Martin said the club's looking for a younger manager, so it's not Ange. It's definitely not Ange. Keep Robbie Keane away from our club. Baz, if we're selling the club, managerial profile applies also for furtherment of careers. Yeah, but what could be better? How many managers, like here, betterment of career, furtherment of careers, right? There's only been one manager in recent times that's left Celtic and went on to win anything that you could say was up there, and that was Ange Postecoglou. When you think of all the managers that have left, yeah, Ronnie Dyler's left and he's won stuff in America, he won stuff in Europe and stuff, but the only one to win something that you could really say, yeah, he was a fucking great manager, was Ange Postecoglou. He went out and he won the Europa. He'd set his mind on winning the Europa. Everything that he did towards the end of the league season was all with the one aim, winning that Europa. He was single-mindedly, that's the one I want to win. I want to win the Europa. And he did it. We need someone that's going to come into Celtic and say, look, I've managed down south. I'm not going to get a club that isn't in the Champions League, isn't in Europa. There's been too many times that not only managers, but players leave Celtic and then they go to something mediocre. This guy's paid his dues in football terms. And some people will say, well, maybe the next step is Celtic. But then maybe he sees the next step after that is Nottingham Forest. I don't know. Is that a step up? No, it's not. Nottingham Forest, although they're in Europe this year, and there's no disrespect to Nottingham Forest fans, but they're not consistently going to be able to win things. As a manager on your CV, would you rather at the end of your days be lying in your bed thinking, yeah, I did 2 years at Celtic and then I went down south and I was manager and I won fuck all for the next 15 years? When he had the opportunity to stay at Celtic for more. There's a bit of regret will come in there. And I think that this is the type of guy that does not want to regret anything in his life. And people will say, well, maybe he'll regret not going to a bigger club. But if you think about the journey, everything that he said today was all about taking a club long term, thinking about things long term, doing things on a daily basis for the betterment of the club on a long term basis. Brendan Rodgers never, ever, ever spoke about long term basis. He spoke about the last window. He spoke about the need for better players. Not once did he speak about the great academy. Not once did he speak about the fact that his inability to hold on to younger academy players and give them a pathway into the Celtic first team was part of the issue at Celtic Football Club. Brendan Rodgers was part of the issue. And it's time that we stand up and we all, listen, I'll put my hands up. I was wrong about him. I admit it. As much as you want to back the manager and you think that he's doing the right things, sometimes when you step back and then you look at things from afar and you go, do you know what? The fucker, he fooled us all. He fooled us all. He didn't fool Paul. That's for sure. Michelle says, I'm actually shocked that David Moyes hasn't been thrown into the mix. Anyone agree? Nah, that's manager to that's ages ago. He's old school. To be honest, I don't want Celtic man in charge. Well, I don't think he's really a Celtic man. I mean, he said in his press conference today, look, we've all got affiliations. We all grew up supporting teams, but it's nothing to do when you're a professional. Do you know? He's not come out fucking badge kissing. I'm a Celtic man. I want the job. Far from it, Chilpil. He couldn't have furthered himself from that part of his life anymore if he tried. Ange Postecoglou wasn't even first choice when he came to Celtic. A lot of people were asking, who's this guy? Yep, exactly. Lampard won't come to Celtic. He could take Coventry City into the Premier League. I've been saying McKenna from the start. Can't see Moyes leaving Everton. Moyes isn't coming to Celtic. If he's that astute, he will read the poison board a mile off. Ay. As much as we want rid of the boards, we're not going to get rid of them today or tomorrow. And there's one person that will be at Celtic over the next couple of years, and it's Dermot Desmond. And he ultimately will have the say on who we want. I think when he brought in a certain Mrs. Whelan to the game last night, although she wasn't brought in to join the board or Willie Haughey, I think that she was brought in to have conversations with the top level executives at Celtic about the potential of certain managers down south. And if she's been brought in just to have that conversation, it says that Dermot Desmond respects her and trusts her. At this level, it's all about who you know, who you like, and who you trust at top level. And for the fact that they two were sitting in beside the board last night, and if this guy is the guy that they're after, I hope they go all out. If both McKenna and the board truly believe in this man, they should take the plunge. I've said it this morning. I think we need to go all in all in. If you're sitting in the casino and you're sitting, it's all in on fucking Black 22 or whatever, if that's his number, you just put everything on it. You just get every bit of coin, throw it on him and say he's the man, and then back him for 5 years. None of this, we'll give him a 3-year contract and fucking nonsense. If you trust him that much, and if this is the guy that we want, and if we want to build for the future, and if we want a younger manager to come through, give him the 5-year deal. Straight right from the start. Give him a 5-year deal. That's what I think anyway. The board need to go first. We need to be realistic. We all want the board to go first. There's no denying that, footballer's life, right? I'm not denying that. But I think that we need to be realistic about the current situation, the here and now. Boardroom level stuff isn't going to happen anytime soon. As much as we want it to happen, as much as fans we can stand outside before a game, once the management's inside, they're not sitting looking out the window. They're sitting in nice little parts of Celtic Park that don't even have windows. Once Martin's done his job here, we should be asking him his first point of contact for new signings. How about the Motherwell guy? I don't think so. I voted no Baz, but I've changed my mind, says Robert. McKenna has been on a lot of Premier clubs' shortlist. Chelsea very recently looked at him. Yeah, he's got a big reputation. And sometimes when you're on a list of the likes of Chelsea and all the rest of all these other clubs, sometimes they look at a manager and they go, is he worth the punt? And they go, no. When Martin O'Neill was at Leicester, how many big clubs were looking at Martin O'Neill at the time? I'm just saying. Do you know, there weren't your Man Uniteds and stuff looking at Martin O'Neill at that time, saying that he's going to be the next Man United manager when Fergie steps down. Just wasn't there. Martin O'Neill was a bit off radar. People at the time when Martin O'Neill came in, what's he won? He'd won the FA Cup, and that was about it with Leicester. Sometimes you need to take a punt on a younger manager, and it pays off big time. And there's one thing, I think that we're on the cusp of a new beginning, and it has to be a new beginning. And yes, there has to be a change at boardroom level. There has to be a change of direction. There has to be a change of quickness of transfers. There's the list goes on with previous managers that had the exact same issue of transfer windows. From Ronnie Dyler, we had players that we wanted to bring in. It takes too long. Neil Lennon, there was a lot we wanted to do in the summer, but financially the club strategy meant you can't always act as quickly as you'd like. We need to sell players before we bring them in. Ange Postecoglou, maybe I wasn't clear enough. I don't know. I've been pretty consistent in saying we need more players in. Brendan Rodgers, the second time round, we are clear we need to improve, but for whatever reason we haven't been able to. We have a recruitment model. The first time round, Brendan Rodgers was here. We have a recruitment model here. I can only work within that and identify players. You're going back over 10 years to Ronnie Dyler. We all know that there needs to be change. It's documented that we need change. I'm not saying stop the need for change. Far from it. If any time, this is probably the best time to go for change at boardroom level, especially when you bring in a young upcoming manager that wants to think of 3-5 year term base. Wants to think about being at a club for a number of years, knowing that we have an objective for this year, next year, and consistently build the squad, make the squad better. He spoke about at Ipswich today. He spoke about not having the summer that he wanted. He spoke about the fact that he's having to work with a rebuilt team this season. Does it sound familiar? It sounds way familiar. But he's not bitching about it. He's accepting it. He's accepting the fact that Ipswich Town have basically had a rebuild in the summer and it's a brand new squad. That was his interview today. Not complaining. Not saying that he didn't have the players of the quality. Taking full responsibility for the team. We haven't had that in the last 6 months. We haven't had that since before the cup final. We all knew the areas that we needed to strengthen before the cup final. I think that this guy is a guy that would tell us the truth. Do you know? I think that he's a guy that might come out and tell us exactly what's going on. But you never know. And the fact that he knows Martin O'Neill's family, we'll wait and see. Does he have a tracksuit? I have no idea. He was kind of in a tracksuit at the press conference today. They're getting advice off her on how to clean up Rodgers' mess at Leicester. It may be the case. Jed, welcome to the channel tonight, Jed. I've said time and time again that I think our number 2 has his mate Roberto Martinez on the way this summer when he's finished in Portugal. Is that... It's maybe wishful thinking by the Celtic fans to get Martinez in, but Martinez comes under the category that I think he would jump ship. I think that we need a manager that is younger than and thinks 3 to 5 year term. I don't think that we need a manager that's going to come in, sign a 3-year contract, and come the end of year 2 is going, I want to go back down south. I want somebody that's going to come in and go, yeah, we're building something here. A bit like the attitude that Brendan Rodgers had the first time around that he came in. Do you know Brendan Rodgers? Well, the fans were all singing Brendan Rodgers is here for 9 in a row. Some of us knew that he wasn't going to be here for 9 in a row because Brendan Rodgers being Brendan Rodgers. But he's in the past. We need another new youthful manager that is not going to be, that doesn't have a high turnover. Martinez maybe comes under the bracket of high turnover manager, high turnover and managerial career stuff. You know, he's maybe the type of manager that could come in and have instant success, a bit like Ange Postecoglou. He might come in and have 2 years fantastic success and then go, do you know what, I'm going to go back down south. That's not the type of guy we need. It's not the type of guy we need. So it maybe is wishful thinking, but you need to remember, Sean Maloney sat at the press conference and said, nope, I'm not going to be part of the Celtic first team coaching system. I have my job here as pathway manager. That's a long-term job. He's no silly. He knows that managers can come and go. Do you know, if Martinez comes in, Sean Maloney knows 2 years down the line, Martinez will change his mind and go, right, fuck this, I'm off. And then Sean's stuck without a job. All for just 2 years. Or would you rather go, nah, fuck that, I'm going back to the pathway manager's job. That's a job for life, that stuff. That's retirement stuff. Do you know, when you look at the old Celtic staff that are running about, that have been here for fucking 27 years, some have been around longer. You know, when you look at the goalkeeping coach, how long's he been at Celtic? Sometimes you need people in positions that... Sean Maloney's a perfect fit for the pathway manager. I think he's above his pay grade. I really do. I think that he's an assistant level person. But when you've had the football career that he's had, do you know, Maloney's managed at Hibs, he's tried it, he's been assistant to a national team, he's had all these different jobs at different levels, and sometimes you just want a job where you're in a comfort zone, but you know that you can do good continually on an ongoing basis, and that you can make players better and you can give them a proper pathway. And I think that he's relishing that, and I think that's why Sean Maloney's saying that. Do you know, that's why he said at the press conference, I'm going I'm going back to the job I had. But anyway, we'll wait and see. I'll never forgive Moyes for selling us that idiot. Knowing he was pish. Yeah, exactly. What's up with women on the boards? I'd be less bored. There is a woman on the board. There's a woman that's been on the board for a long, long time. Paul Lambert. He's not going to go. He's never going to go to Celtic. He's already said. If you can stay away from the championship market for players, overpriced, overpaid. I can't think past Sunday right now. Yeah, we need to focus on Sunday tomorrow. We'll focus on that tomorrow. Let's get an update on let me just see. I just talking about Trusty. Yep. I forgot to make it sort of clickbait headlines that just sort of leave it vain. The fact is he's been touted for the job and he didn't come out and say, no, I'm not interested. McKenna had a choice today. He was asked a lot of questions about wanting to take the Celtic job. If he didn't want to take the job, if he was 150% focused on being at the club until the end of the season, I wonder who said that. If he was 150% focused on being at the club to the end of the season, he would come out and say, look, I'm not interested in the Celtic job. And that's it. He never done that this afternoon. He never came out and said, nah, look, I'm happy here. If Celtic were to come in, I would say no, because I'm happy here. But he didn't say that. There was a never say never, and there was a very diplomatic, I'm here for the short term, medium term, and long term. Very football talk stuff. Money talks. He also said that look, there is in any contract, there is a part of any contract that allows you to go and talk to someone for a certain amount of money, and I do not believe that the guy is on $5 million a year. I heard rumours that Hoopies jumped ship with Rodgers. Never trusted the hound anyway. Thank God I'm on water tonight. Oh, jeez. All these yes people queuing, why is she not coming to the Celtic board at all? The board needs to go. She probably hasn't been asked to come onto the Celtic board. She's probably been brought up for just talks. And sometimes top level businessmen, when they run companies and they see that a company is going through a bit of hardship, sometimes they will invite people in to have a lunch conversation with the current executives, not to take over the current executive's position, but she might have been brought in to say, well, this is what fucking Brendan did when he left fucking Leicester. This is what we went through. This is the legal route that Brendan Rodgers... It could have been as simple as that. Listen, this is the pish to expect for Brendan Rodgers over the next couple of weeks. He's going to try and tan you for 2 or 3 million. And this is what he'll say. It could have been as simple as that. But we move on. Moyes is too negative. He's not the man for me. Lambert would be purely eye candy. It doesn't matter what Desmond wants. Desmond will pick the next manager. People on the board are just puppets. Surely you can put that team we had against Rangers. Jim, why? Surely you can't put that team we had on against Rangers. Why not? Who would you change for the team last night? Oh God, they're dismissing Martin O'Neill already. He's one game in, and there's people dismissing Martin O'Neill and oh jeez. All the new outlets want clicks. What's that one? All the news outlets want clicks. Don't believe it until anything is widespread. Brendan screaming at the telly, seeing his two execs getting along so well. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Rodgers and Desmond both have massive egos. It was always going to end badly. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think it was always going to end badly. I think that when there has to be some truth, if there's no truth in what I don't want to go over old news. I mean, this was Monday's news, which was Tuesday's chip shop paper stuff. If there isn't 100% ounce of truth in what Dermot Desmond signed on the Celtic website, if there was any room for Brendan's legal team to pick holes in that, to sue the fuck out of Celtic and Dermot, do you think that Brendan Rodgers would be fucking sitting in New York getting fucking proposing to his missus, proposing to his girlfriend to get married? It's amazing how fucking quick Celtic loses your mind, and then all of a sudden you're in New York fucking on your knees in Times Square fucking proposing to a bird. Come on, let's wake up and smell it. Even I've woken up and smelled the coffee. When it comes to I take Lambert, Desmond doesn't own that many shares. He's never been bought out. Moving on for that. Sunday's a different kettle of fish for Falkirk. Falkirk was a perfect start, but we need a real test on Sunday. They only won 1-0 last night. So, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We need to clear out Rodgers' ideas about changes. I think we did that last night. If I wasn't mistaken, I think that when you look at the game last night, it was so far away from Rodgers' idea of playing football until Rio Hatate come on. Rio Hatate for me was the only player that fucking turned around and passed the ball backwards to the defence. If you're Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney, you're looking at Rio Hatate and going, what the fuck's wrong with that boy? And then you're going, he could speak English. You're saying to the translator, what the fuck's he doing? What the fuck? We told him what to fucking do. What the fuck's this passion back push? That's why hasn't Rodgers spoken himself about it? Because he's in New York. He's just been engaged. He just got engaged in Times Square to his bird. I didn't know that he was divorced only 6 to 8 days ago or something, which explains everything that's been going on in the guy's mind. He's been too busy trying to get his Nat King Cole off a younger bird. But anyway, that's why he's not spoken. There was rumours that he was in Brazil. He's fucking in New York. Baz, that was years ago he got engaged, not recently, 2018. Bring it up and make up news. Well, who cares? Let's just go with it anyway. Fuck him. Good luck to Brendan. We'll wait and see. If there was any ounce of liability in the legal side for the statement from Dermot Desmond, your lawyers would be all over it making a statement the next day. That's all I'm saying. Fuck Brendan, he's in the past. Glad talks at Brendan's away. Yeah, let's get on to that. Let's get on to it. Anyway, he's not cool. Right, what time is it? We've been on for 43 minutes. Brendan plundering shite. Brendan's in my rear view mirror. He's not even in the rear view mirror because that Honda Civic that he was driving has just been left smoked by Martin O'Neill's Lamborghini that he drove onto Celtic Park last night. And let's talk about last night. Let's talk about the reality of where we were. Baz, watching football last night was a breath of fresh air. Would you agree? Yes. How could one 73-year-old manager and Sean Maloney, how could one 73-year-old manager and Sean Maloney turn it around so quick in the space of days? In the space of since Monday, 2 days. How could Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham walk into training? You've got to remember, when Fotheringham walks into training, when Fozzie walks into training, half the players are not going to understand a word that Fozzie says because he's a mad chuchter. They're not going to understand a word that he says. And they're going to be looking about going, come back, Brendan, please. And then the other lot are going to be looking at Sean Maloney and going, yeah, I fucking knew you were a snake. And then Martin O'Neill comes in. He's never been on the training pitch. He's never spoke to the players. He meets them at the hotel the day before, and he has a conversation with them. And he puts them at ease. How within 2 days. 2 days. He's Dundonian, isn't he? Yeah, that's Chukter for me. I'm for 5. He's for Dundee. That's Chukter. That's well Chukter land. Once you cross over that Tay Bridge, it's no man's land. I mean, you've got to think about it. The change in the attitude in the players in 2 days. We're not talking about weeks. We're not talking about months. Brendan Rodgers and Kennedy and everybody's been working with these players since the summer, and they couldn't get a tune out of them. Never even mind a tune. Brendan Rodgers said they were Honda Civic. I don't know what Brendan Rodgers and the rest of the staff were doing on a weekly basis in training. Because for Martin O'Neill to come in and change everything that he did, for Sean Maloney to come in and change everything he did within 24 hours, 48 hours is unbelievable. And it shows you that there was a toxic person in the room. And maybe there has to be some truth in what was put out. 24 hours is enough time for the legend of Fozzie. Brendan's the Honda Civic. Johnny Kenny. What I'm saying, like Johnny Kenny. It was fucking Falkirk. We put 4 past him earlier on in the season. Says Stevie. It was fucking Falkirk. It was fucking Dundee. They pumped us. It was fucking Hearts. They pumped us. This time last year, we pumped Hearts 4-0. Have a bit of reality check, Stevie, about where Celtic are and where the Celtic board are, where the players have been. Because players don't come out and put out statements on social media like this when they're not entirely happy, if I could find it. 3 points, clean sheet. 90 minutes under my belt. Perfect evening at Celtic Park. Thank you to the Celtic supporters for backing us all the way. That's a shout out to the supporters for backing the team, because they know that it's not been them. It's not been the players. It's definitely not been the players. That's all I'm saying. But it's fucking Falkirk. It is what it is. Anyway, right, that's me done and dusted for this evening. Come on, Hearts did not pump us. We handed them a win. Did you watch the game, Michelle? Come on, we didn't hand them the win. We were shite in the second half. Absolute shite in the second half. Murray gave Hearts the win. Doesn't matter who it was, we've got to respect the players. Exactly. And we've got to respect other teams in Scottish football, because if you don't, you just become a fucking Hun. Anyway, on that note, have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world. Would you back McKenna as Celtic manager? 73%. Wow. 73% say yes, 27% no, 434 votes on the poll. That's a good amount. And it's a good amount that said that we'd back him. Just shows you. And I shall see you in the morning.